All right, welcome back, and I trust that you had a good time working your way through the translation of 1 John 4, 1 through 6, along with some significant observations and interpretive comments that you've made. So let's get started. I entitled this paragraph, The Test of False and True Prophets. Now, in verse 1, we have the vocative, beloved, and then we have the negative may that is linked up with the imperative pisteuta. So stop believing every spirit, but examine. Dokimadzita, present active imperative, second person plural. So examine the spirits if they are from God. Now you may remember with Professor Oddity in chapter 6 that neuter plural subjects can take a singular verb, and that's what we have with Estin, present indicative third singular of Amy. So, but examine the spirits if they are from God. Then we have an explanation for the twofold command, because many false prophets, you'll see the pseudo here on the front, false prophets. And then we have our verb here, perfect, active, indicative, third person plural, have gone forth into the world. So here in this verse, we have a contrast between the present imperative that's negated. Stop believing every spirit. That is joined with the positive imperative, examine, dokimadzita. So here we have the negative may with the imperative stop believing that is juxtaposed with its opposite, examine. Now, the word dokimadzo comes from the field of metallurgy, where things like silver and gold, for example, would be put in a cauldron in a kiln and would be boiled with the dross that would be skimmed out off the top. And by the way, for instance, a silver bar that had gone through the examination process would be stamped at the top with dakime, meaning tested, examined, and this is approved as bona fide. Now, the source here of the Spirit that's from God is juxtaposed with the source of the Spirit that's from the Antichrist, and we'll see that later. Now, in the explanation for the twofold command, stop believing but examine, we note the meaning of the perfect tense here. Here is the explanation with hati, because, and that is linked up with the perfect here, have gone forth into the world. Now, the perfect tense again, past action with extended results, meaning that the effects of what the false prophets have done are still around. In verse 2 through 3a, we have the means of examination, instrumentation or means. We have a positive confession of a real incarnation. So we have en tuto, in this, or by this, you know the Spirit of God, pan pneuma, every spirit which confesses. Hamalage, present active indicative third person singular from hamalageo, I confess. So the object of confession is Jesus Christ and sarki eleluthata, having come forth or into the world, or having come into the world. That's a perfect active participle, masculine singular accusative. Now, the means of examination then follows by the contrasting. Every spirit which does not confess Jesus Christ having come in the flesh. Now, here I put in brackets the elision. That is something that is implied. And I carry this over from the previous line here, having come in the flesh, is not from God. So notice the color coding here. Ha-hamalage, that is juxtaposed with ha-me-hamalage. And then we have the ektu theou estin juxtaposed with ektu theou uk estin. And then in green, having come in the flesh. So here we have the real incarnation expressed in the language of having come in the flesh. Now, we have several points of contrast here. Confessing versus not confessing. Jesus Christ come in the flesh, or Jesus Christ who has not come in the flesh. And then we have the contrasting from God juxtaposed with not from God. And these are regarded as genitives of origin or source. Now, in 3b, we have the source of false confession. Kai tuta estin ta tu antichristu. Now, you'll notice here I put in brackets pneuma. And I think we have here another elision. Because here we have the neuter article, and over here we have the masculine article. And what is neuter is what is preceded in the verse, a spirit. So this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard. Perfect active indicative, second person plural, that is coming or is about to come and now is in the world already. So let's make a couple comments here. As I noted, we have an elision here of spirit. So this is the spirit of the Antichrist. And if we remember back in 2:18, we noticed the juxtaposition of the futuristic present as well as the present with respect to the Antichrist. And you remember it is the last hour. So what we have here, and this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming, or is about to come, or will come. And the present can be used in a futurist way. And my reason for taking that as a futurist is that we have the adverb now in the world, then we have the present tense of estin and already at the end. Now is in the world already. So future juxtaposed with the present. Now, in terms of the community, John arms his readers with the confidence in the face of false confession, and he points to their origin as well as their victory. You are from God. That's origin. And you have conquered them. Nanekekate. Perfect active indicative second person plural. And then we have an explanation for their sure confidence. Because greater is the one in you than, here's this little particle of comparison, the one in the world. So the one in you is juxtaposed with the one in the world. So let's make a couple comments here. Again, the genitive of origin, a clear confidence builder in the face of threats to the community. You are from God, little children. Confidence is also expressed in the perfect tense. You have conquered them, meaning you are still in a state of being victorious. And the antecedent of them would be the false prophets as well as the spirit of the Antichrist. Now, if we remember back in chapter 2, we had a threefold repetition there of nenekekata. You have conquered. Then we have a further explanation for why Christians can be confident about their origin and their victory, and that is expressed here with the conjunction hati. Because greater is the one in you than the one in the world. Now, we have a continuity of language here for the opponents. In this paragraph, we have reference to the spirits, verse 1, many false prophets, also in verse 1, 3b, the spirit of the Antichrist, and that is juxtaposed here with the one in the world. So we have here several terms that describe the opponents. And you remember the opponents, these antichrists that had been part of the community, at least physically, but had left the community. Then in 5 through 6a, we have a further test. We have a negative progression as well as a positive progression. They, and that has reference to the opponents, they're from the world. Diatuta, on account of this, they speak from the world. Lalusin, present active, indicative, third person plural of the verb laleo. And the world hears them. Present active, indicative, third singular. Then we move into a positive test, positive progression. We are from God, the one who knows God. Ha genoskon, present active participle, masculine singular nominative. So the one who knows God hears us. And then we have the negative progression again. He who is not from God does not hear us. Now, let me make a couple comments here. In terms of the opponents, they are from the world. It is important to note here that the term cosmos reveals the origin of the opponents. And notice here the repetition of ha-cosmos. Now, I put these under the category of origin speech that is then followed by the audience. They are from the world, origin. Secondly, they speak from the world. That's their speech. And then their audience, the world, hears them. And it's important here to note the essential congruity between the three. That is the audience that pays attention to the opponents. Now, this is then juxtaposed with the positive progression. We, that is the Christian community, we are from God. Here we have origin. The one who knows God hears us. And so here we have the implied speech and then certainly the audience. And then we have the reiterated negative progression. He who is not from God does not hear us. So once more, in a positive way, there's a congruity between the origin, the speech, and then the audience. So we have this negative juxtaposed with the positive. Then we have the summation of the test. From this, ektutu, we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of deception. So notice here we have the contrast between truth and deception. Now the planes here is cognate with the verb that we've already seen, planao, that means I deceive or I wander, meaning I wander from the truth. Now, we have to ask the question, what is the antecedent of from this, ektutu? Well, the preceding verse states that there's an essential congruity between the origin, the speech, and the audience. Thus, what is said and the respective audience indicates whether one has an origin in God or not. So put very simply, who is really listening to you? The audience, in a way, determines the origin. So if we take a look at the whole, let me suggest here a flow of thought in terms of how the whole paragraph fits together. Because there are many hostile forces, human and spiritual, that are at work in the world, the Christian community is supplied with two basic tests. First of all, a witness to a real incarnation, Jesus Christ having come in the flesh. And secondly, the test is a receptivity to the truth, in that such receptivity indicates one's origin. So again, the congruity between the origin, the speech, and the audience. Thanks.